Okay, so the purpose of this video is to show how you can use Photoshop to remove bruises from skin, leaving in its place skin that looks healthy and natural in color and tone and texture. Right now what you see up on the screen is just a black sheet because before I show you the actual photo, I have to give a trigger warning. The photo that we're working on is of a woman who has a bruise on her eye and the side of her nose and near her mouth, and it appears to be a depiction of domestic violence or violence of some sort that led to the bruising on her face. So you know that there's no exploitation going on. Let me show you where I got the image. It's from a website called pexels.com, and it's a website that offers free stock photos and videos to creatives. And if you look at the licensing terms, it'll show you right here that I'm free to use photos that I download from this website. I'm not required to give credit to the photographer, although I will in a moment, and I can modify the photo as I choose. What's not allowed is if the photo was of an identifiable person and I'm making them appear in a bad light or way that's offensive. I'm not trying to sell unaltered copies of the photo. I'm not implying that the subject of the photo or the photographer is endorsing me or my brand, and I'm not going to redistribute this to another stock photo or wallpaper platform. Also, from reading the terms of service for photo uploads, it's implied that the photographer had the legal right to provide this photo to the website and that the subject of the photo signed off on a release. So everything is on the up and up legally and ethically, and that's what these photos are for. So now that we've gone through that, I'm going to show you the photo in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here's the photo as it's shown on the website. This is the name of the photographer. The lady in the photo is not identified. And I've already downloaded this image and I've brought it into Photoshop. Okay, so let me go ahead and get rid of this document here, and here's our photo, and we are going to work on it starting with the action that I provided. Okay, so we have our cleanup layer first, and as always, the cleanup layer is going to be for removing minor distractions, cuts, scrapes, scratches, scabs. We're not going to use the cleanup layer to try to take care of any of the bruising. It won't work. We have to use more delicate methods, but for this scratch here we can just use the spot healing brush and going through. I'm not too worried about the hair, but this will be fine for the cleanup layer. Now we're going for dodging and burning. Okay, so since we're doing dodging and burning, we might as well turn on the black and white helper group. And of course, because what we're dealing here is darker than what we want, we're going to use dodging. So let's go ahead and go to our white soft brush tip at 1% flow. And let's take a moment to look through and identify where we're going to be dodging. I would say the corner of this mouth. There appears to be a little bit of bruising down here, a little bit on the side of the nose here. Of course, this bruise here that's more noticeable than the rest, and around the corner of her eye, both top and bottom. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get at it at 1% flow with a soft white brush. Without too much narration until we have to make our first adjustment. I'm not worried about the blotches of skin down here. This isn't really about beautification at the moment. It's just about removing the bruising. So as always, when you're doing dodging and burning and you have a black and white layer, ideally what you'll end up with when you're done is a nice black and white image. That's the goal as we see it here. So we're dodging this eye, and we can kind of use this eye as kind of like a as a guide to what we're looking for. And what you come to find out very quickly is that you cannot lighten up this skin as much as it needs to be lightened up just by using one dodging layer. So what to do, simply enough, is after you've done all the dodging you can do on that first dodging layer, just make another one. You can do it from scratch by making a new curves layer and doing what you do, or you can just go ahead and copy this layer. You want to make the mask completely black again and then go at it a second time. So it looks like this area under the eye still needs a little bit more, and especially around the corner of the eye here. Noticing that the bruise extended to the eyelid itself, or the makeup depicting the bruise. I'm not really sure which it is. And then we can go back to the main and darkest bruising area right here and work it down even more. And again, what you come to find is that it's still not enough as far as dodging capability goes. So we'll just go ahead and make a third dodging layer by copying the second one. Again, taking that mask and setting it to black, and we'll go back at it. Let's go in here. I think this might be the last layer that we need to take care of this really dark spot, perhaps. Remember, we're not trying to get it as light as this skin, we're trying to get it as light as this shadow that's naturally occurring on the side of the nose. So let's see if we can make that happen. And it looks like this is going to do it, right? And if it looks a little bit sloppy, don't worry about it, because we're going to tidy it up in a bit, and we are going to really do a lovely job here. I know it for a fact. And I think that this is impactful work. If you ever come across a situation like this where you have somebody that needs a bruise removed for any reason, but especially if there's some violence involved. Okay, so if we dial it back, it's looking pretty darn good. I think I'm gonna get into the dodging just a little bit more, and using broader strokes. And then what we can do is kind of go in even closer and really kind of smooth things out, all right? And this is some detailed work, but the results are really going to be, I think, quite powerful. Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure if this would be considered a bruise, but we'll just dodge this out just a little bit up here. Okay, so I think that all in all, we're looking good. All in all, there's a good amount of consistency between the two eyes. I think the transition from the under eye to the cheek below it is pretty smooth. I don't see any noticeable like blotches that need to be cleared up. I mean, I could dodge and burn forever to make it absolutely perfect or try for it, but it's not really necessary in this case. Okay, so that's what we have. Now, this is the amazing part when you see how far we've gotten just with dodging and burning. When I turn the black and white helper group off, fantastic, right? So, what do we see? What we're left with? We see that there's a little bit of discoloration under the eye, right? And it's a color problem, and we're gonna diagnose it as we do, first starting with saturation. So as we turn on the saturation map, we said as far as saturation levels go, that probably would not be considered part of the problem. It looks pretty even on both sides, so we could take it as not a part of the problem, right? If we look down the lips, the nose, everything pretty much seems to be where it's supposed to be as far as saturation. And we can look at hue and look at the hue map and see that this area under here is a little bit bluish, and we might want to brush some of this skin tone on there. So we can take this brush, we'll turn the hue map off, and we can take this brush onto this layer with the hue blending mode, and we can brush over it. But you see, well, let me turn the flow up. But you see, it's not making that much of a difference because it's not very saturated at all. And hue without saturation only offers a slightly different shade of gray. All right? So we've done all we can with those. So then what that's going to take us to is frequency separation, where we can, number one, do some airbrushing to mix in some of the colors like we do in other photographs, and number two, fix some textural issues that are left behind. If you see, like over here, some color and texture issues. So let's go ahead and get at it with the frequency separation. We'll start with a merge stamp, and we're going to copy. Of course, we're going to label this color, and we're going to label this texture. We're going to turn texture off, go to color, and then it's going to be filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and set it to a pixel radius where all the fine texture is gone, but all the outlines are still the same. So 4.2 looks pretty good. So we got that. Now for the texture layer, it's going to be image, apply image. So the layer is going to be the color layer. The blending mode, now this is an 8-bit image. All the other frequency separation setups I've done so far have been on 16-bit raw images. This one is on an 8-bit image. If you're not sure, you can always look at this number here. It says 8. So instead of the blending mode add, we're going to use the blending mode subtract, and the scale is going to be 2, and the offset is going to be 128. Right. 100% opacity. Make sure neither of these boxes are checked, and do not check invert. Click on OK. Then if we zoom in, we can see the texture is in there, right? And then just turn this blending mode to linear light, and we're back to where we started, and we can make an airbrushing layer in between. Okay, so let's start with the color. All right, so just like we were blending in all the other images we've worked on, 1% flow, and we're going to sample and brush, sample and brush, sample and brush. All right, and it's just blending just like we've always done it. Regardless of how this image started, the sampling of the colors and the airbrushing is going to be the same, right? You see before and after, and we are getting some colors in there that we like to see, right? We can even pull some colors from here and brush it over here to get some more continuity from one side to the other, here to here, if we choose to do that. And then just blending. Let's put this together in a group and call this group frequency separation, so we can turn it on and off to see the before and after. So we are already at a place where this was the before and this was the after. It's beautiful. Zooming in, and we can do just a little bit more airbrushing. We can use it to kind of work the color transitions in the nose, up the bridge of the nose, and then from there, right? And then even over here, any discoloration that might have been left over from the bruising can be blended right into the natural skin color on the temples and the cheeks. Right. So maybe all that's left right now is there's a little bit of a rough texture here that presumably came from the bruising, because we don't see it on this side, but we can go to our texture layer and we can use a clone stamp, make sure that it's a current layer, and set flow at about, perhaps, I don't know, I have it at 6%, but we might even do fine with like 10%. Okay, we're going to sample from down here, which is a desirable skin texture. Sample, and then one swipe. Okay, and then again sample and one swipe, and again sample and one swipe. We don't want to start coloring on it like we're using a crayon. That'll make things uneven and dull, but what we did right there was we minimized the texture without replacing it with anything unnatural. If anything, we just took some natural texture that would have normally occurred, like the skin below it, and kind of blended it in with the texture that's already there. We can do the same to a lesser degree here with these textures. So we can sample here and then swipe, texture and then swipe. We can sample here and then swipe. Right. So now we have some really, really good looking texture. I feel like we could probably even do just a little bit more dodging and burning. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's take our black and white helper group, which we turned off previously, and bring it right back up to the top. Okay, let's turn it on. And then we can see that we could do just a little bit of dodging and burning here, just to kind of even things out. So without making a big fuss out of it, let's go ahead and make a dodging layer. I'll bring it up here. And as we did before, we'll drag up the midtones and invert it. And then we'll call it dodging. We'll call it more dodging. And the next one can be another burning layer. We'll bring this down, and we can call this more burning. Alright, we have our black and white helper group on. So where can we dodge? Let's go in, and with our soft round white brush, we can get a little bit in there and just smooth things out, just to make this as sweet as possible, right? And then with a little bit of burning, we can fill in some of the lighter patches that we see, right? Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Turn off this black and white helper group. Let's put these two things together again in a group, and we will call this group more dodging and burning. That's what we got before and after. And this is what we are left with. Where we started was here, and where we ended up was here. And it all looks beautiful and natural, and all of the natural texture was retained. And really, I don't know if there's any evidence of the bruise originally being there. So yeah, so it just shows you what a powerful tool Photoshop is, and it also shows you how these simple adjustments and the way that we break down the way we perceive color and texture, these simple adjustments we make can be used to a really, really powerful effect. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned from it, and of course, feel free to ask questions if you'd like.